Is it? Oh, we're almost there. Did you see snow massive down?
Expected they would be.
17 million onto the building.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is our Tuesday, July 26th work session, and we are at the William R. Dunaway Community Room at the Pickens County Library, and this will be our new home for the next year and a half while our Plaza One is going under a remodel and our new building is being constructed. So you're welcome to come in, and if you have something on the agenda that's not going to be for a while, there's great browsing materials right next door. Magazines, newspapers, books, anything your heart desires at the Pickens County Library. So welcome, everyone. And we're going to start with a facilities financing follow-up. And we have John Peacock and Tom Oken presenting.
Good afternoon. So, I guess about a month ago, we discussed financing options for the facility remodel and upgrade and new construction. And those options were two. One, to issue sales tax revenue bonds which would require voter approval this November. The other alternative was to issue certificates of participation in a lease purchase agreement, and those could be issued without voter approval at any time. And at that time, you actually wanted us to come back with proposed ballot language to see what that might look like. But since that time, we have some new information that this November's ballot is going to have well over $1 billion of school district debt on it. And given that it's a general election, it's likely that most of that debt will be approved. And so we really don't want to be in the market in competition with so much debt, because interest rates will definitely be higher. And that debt is likely to be issued pretty much immediately and for 3 months following the November election. So our financial advisor is telling us we either want to issue debt ahead of the election or do our debt issue in March to let that huge supply clear out and interest rates return to normal. We could wait till March in terms of actually needing the funding. Since we're starting construction in October and part of it is being funded from cash, we would probably have enough to get through till March when we could issue debt. But the risk in waiting till March is that interest rates could rise by then from pre-election levels. Just the passage of 3-4 months of time in there increases the likelihood that interest rates could rise. And so our sense is we should get out in front of the election, issue in October. And to do so, obviously we wouldn't have voter approval for sales tax revenue bonds, so we would do lease purchase certificates of participation. So we're here today just to get your feedback on that, approval of that strategy, so we can start working on it, because it takes a couple months to put together the issue.
Patty?
I have a question. If we were to go out to the certificate of participation soon, like now, could we 2-3 years down the line flip it and go back to the voters and go for the revenue?
To refund that issue, yeah, typically it's going to be a 30-year issue, so normal call provisions for that would be 10 years
So we could
out.
at some point.
So 10 years from now, we could refinance that with certificates of participation if rates were lower, or you could ask for the voters to approve sales tax revenue bonds at that time.
Well,
But you're locked in for at least 10 years in this.
before you brought forward this new information and thinking about the issue, my thought was to go for the vote in November with a clear understanding to the community that we're building the building. We're just trying to decide which way is the best financially for the taxpayers, for the community to fund it. So going forward with the vote, and if the vote fails, we'd go for their certificates of participation. Doesn't sound like that's going to be the wise thing to do now because of all this debt that's coming out of the November election, most likely. So I guess what you're saying is it's probably best for us, interest-wise, with the economy, who knows what's going to happen after November, to move forward with the COPs in October.
Correct. Yeah, we
We
know we can't predict interest rates.
Yeah.
We haven't had any luck doing that, but
I don't think anybody has.
basically there's about 0.2 of a percentage point difference between the sales tax revenue bonds and a certificate of participation. Sales tax revenue bonds are a cheaper alternative, but the risk of rates moving up by 0.2 of a point between October and March, I'd say it's not worth the risk, and we ought to just go issue debt. Rates right now are quite low, so very advantageous, and I think we should just go take advantage of it.
It's turned on.
John?
If I could just build
It's
on
turned
that,
on.
when we talked about this during development of the 2016 budget, what we really talked about was there were two financing alternatives available to us, and we wanted to look and recommend whichever one was going to be most fiscally advantageous for the project going forward based on our best estimates of what interest rates would be. And at that time we talked about if you were able to issue at the exact same time, revenue bonds and general obligation bonds will be less than certificates of participation because of the lower risk associated with the other two forms. However, the reason or the rationale for using COPs is that there's more flexibility in the timing, and sometimes it's more advantageous to go ahead and issue when you know what the rates are in anticipation that they might go up for various reasons. As Tom's outlined, one reason right now may be that there are a number of potential bond issues going forward which tend to drive rates up. And or to avoid that, you've got to push out so far in the calendar year that we have a higher risk of interest rates going up. And so looking at, sticking with the same criteria that we talked about during budget and knowing what we know now, we believe it is in the best interest. It's a lower risk option and probably fiscally advantageous to go ahead and go out for an RFP for an underwriter for certificates of participation now so that we can issue ahead of the November election rather than take the risk that interest rates are going to go up with the approval of a lot of municipal bonds, and or that we try and wait that out and they go up by March, April, May. So this is really still about us choosing what we think is the most fiscally advantageous financing method for the project.
So the first step is to actually go out for an RFP. It doesn't actually commit us at this point. It's just seeing what that would entail and who would underwrite it.
Correct.
Because it should be noted that Commissioner Richards is out. She's representing the county at the National Association of Counties Conference. And Commissioner Owsley's out on vacation. So it would be good to have all 5 commissioners here once we get the RFP back and have everyone be able to weigh in. Steve?
Yeah, come with the presidential election coming up, there's a huge uncertainty on what happens to interest rates after the election. Also, there's a bunch of speculation whether the Federal Reserve Bank will go to a negative interest rate following the lead of some other countries. And given there's so much uncertainty and it's totally impossible to predict where the interest rates are going to go, it seems to me it is a prudent step to start proceeding along this line of doing the COPs, and then we still get a chance to decide in about a month's time. Is that correct? When we get the RFP back, then we'll have numbers to put to it.
Well, the RFP just tells us our selection there is who will sell the debt for us, the bonds, or COPs in this case, and will give us an indication of where current rates are, what it will actually cost to do the whole deal. To approve that issue, there'll be a 2-reading resolution, and that will come to you for first reading probably the second meeting in August. So that's pretty much your time to say, yeah, we're going forward, pretty much finally, and then second reading would be first meeting in September. And then we would market the bonds towards the end of September, early October, and close on the deal in October. So that's kind of the timing.
Quick time frame.
And then also it's interesting to note that it's just a 0.2% difference in the interest rates. And if we didn't do this and the interest rates went up 0.2%, it wipes out any savings we might have gotten by going for the revenue bonds.
Pretty much there are a few more upfront costs with the certificates participation, but yeah, a quarter of a point rise would pretty much equate everything.
So is the board comfortable
I
with
think we need to
moving
move
ahead, at least for
forward.
the first step?
Okay,
Great, thanks, Tom.
great, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, next on the agenda is the Aspen Pickett Employee Housing, Inc. Hunter Longhouse discussion. And I see Sherry Sandstone is here. And is John Ely coming? Or
Shoot him an email. Yes, I believe he's planning on being here.
welcome.
Hi, thank you for having us.
In our new meeting space.
I know, it's beautiful. Really nice.
Sherry, are you able to start this without John? Okay.
For the record, my name is Sherry Sanzone, and I'm the Executive Director and Board Member of API, which is Aspen Picken Employee Housing, Inc., and we're a nonprofit that was started, maybe 30 years ago, with the purpose of developing Hunter Longhouse. We're here today. We wanted to provide you an update on what we've been up to since we were before you last in 2014, just to recognize our partnership, which has been very successful for API, and so we want to honor that by coming back to you every year or so just to keep you up to speed on what we're up to moving forward. So we provided a short memo summary. I'll just walk through the highlights of that, and then if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer those today, or if there are questions that I can't answer today, I can go get information and get it back to you. To be clear, this is an update FYI. We're not asking for action or certainly funding as a part of our being before you today. But again, API was started about 30 years ago. Some of our founding members included Bob O'Dane, who is a local orthopedic surgeon, and then also Harry Truscott, who was a very important member of creating the Aspen Picken APSHA program, housing program here in the Valley. We are an active board. Right now we're comprised of Wayne Stryker, who's a local architect in the Valley, myself, Dean Phyllis, who is our newest member and has general construction experience, Paul Mentor, who is very experienced in public finance and used to be the City of Aspen's finance director, and then Tim Whitsitt, who is an attorney, land use and real estate attorney, who also used to be the Picken County's attorney before going out into private practice. So we created the Hunter Longhouse in partnership with Picken County. At the time, Harry and Bob and others approached Picken County and asked if there was property available to provide that to our group, and at little to no cost, and then we would build and manage the affordable housing on that property. So we did that, and it's been very successful. It's rarely is there a vacant unit in the property. It's located on Lone Pine Road, which is next to Hunter Creek condominium, so very convenient to the downtown core and a lot of employer locations. Our property consists of 28 one and two bedroom units, and then we had subsequently had built 5 annex units that were also 2 bedrooms but had more space for families. We found as people were moving into the property, they wanted to stay. Hi, John. How are you? They were done earlier. No problem. And so in total, we have 33 units on the property. In 2014, we came before the board, working very closely with John and Tom, to come up with a new lease to be able to extend our 40-year lease that we had with Pickens County on that property. And that was renewed, and that's really allowed us kind of the security and assurance that we can now reinvest in the property again and even pursue some new projects that are something that we're interested in doing. So currently we've undergone, since that 2014 lease extension, we've implemented an extensive unit remodel. We've remodeled all of the units. We have 4 left to do, which will be completed this year. And that's included all new appliances, all new finishes, energy improvements, new windows that have higher R value to be able to save energy. And it's been something that's been really great. And we've done that as units have turned over, so we've minimized disruption to our residents. We're pretty excited about the largest remodel we have, which hopefully we'll be able to break ground on this fall, and that's to replace what we call the solar vaults. Our second floor units on the longhouses are enclosed with very dated 70s era tinted glass enclosures that over the years have leaked. They've been very hot in the summer, very cold in the winter. They do provide a really valuable space for people to be able to store bikes and other things there. Excuse me, getting over a cold. And because they have kind of a curved profile, they have repeatedly in the winter shed snow and ice, and unfortunately all of that comes down in front of the doors of our first floor units. So it's been a maintenance problem for us and just not a great design element. So this year, we really would like to be able to replace that with stick-built construction, which will still enclose those quarters, but be able to provide, obviously, a better conditioned space, but also additional storage spaces, which we know are at a premium at the property. And again, because we're planning to do this while people are in residence, we're working very closely with the owner's rep that we've recently hired, our property manager, our general contractor, who hopefully we'll bring on board in the next month to really fine-tune the plans to make sure that we're minimizing disruption to tenants. Of course, it's very safe for everyone who's on property, but it will be our biggest remodel and biggest reinvestment in the property to date. So to make all this happen, we are looking at a 5% increase in our rents for this year. And we've provided some information to put that into context. You know, our board has been very reluctant to raise rates, and we always check with the housing office to understand what's, you know, the CPI or what's the rate that they're recommending. Over the last few years, it's been, I think, 1% or 0%, very low. But over those years, our board has been really reluctant to take advantage of those increases to keep the property as affordable as possible. So now we're playing a little bit of catch up to be able to offset some of the costs of these extensive remodels, including the solar vaults. So I wanted to make you aware of the 5% increase that we're moving forward with on the property for this year. And again, have provided context that even with that increase, we're still well below the average for other Category 3 units in the Valley. And then last but not least, we're very excited to be pursuing new projects. We're looking anywhere from the Upper Valley and Aspen to Mid-Valley, Basalt, and just a little bit further down Valley from there for properties where we can build another affordable housing project using our same model. We're hopeful to be able to secure land at little or no cost, be able to build the project at our cost and then manage it over time. So definitely another rental project. And that's kind of what we're up to. So wanted to answer any questions that you might have.
Thanks, Sherry.
Sure.
So you're sort of like a miniature APSHA,
We are very, very small.
very small. And when you have turnover, what's the process in terms of someone applying? And these are all rental units only.
They are. They're all rental units, and we go through the qualification process through APSHA. So we usually find tenants through APSHA. You know, folks will go to the housing office looking for a place to live, and they'll see the list of different units that are available and contact us that way. We also have folks that come to us by word of mouth. Their friends live on the property. They want to be able to come in. So we don't have a formal wait list, but we certainly have a list of people that we know are interested in moving into the property at any time of the year.
Yeah, real quick, the only pets, they have cats, right?
We have cats and we have one service dog right now.
It's great because, you know, I think we've all known people, well, at least I have, that have lived in any of those units over the years, and it is a great location, walkable, busable, bikeable, everything. So, and it's been a great example of what we can do, kind of thinking outside of the box. So I was already, when you're saying looking for property down Valley, my mind is clicking away, thinking of vacant lot possibilities. So if I think of anything really wild, I'll let you know.
Oh, good, thank you.
Steve?
Sherry, do you have any restrictions in your bylaws as to where a new project could be located? Does it have to be in Pickens County, or could it be in Eagle or Garfield County even?
It can be anywhere. Yeah, we revisit this topic, periodically, and I think we still believe that the greatest need is in the upper and mid valley, and so that's where we wanted to focus our efforts.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
So how does your funding work if you were to work on a completely new project? How did you get this project off the ground? I mean, you were fortunate because the county basically gave you the land, which is a great savings, but even if you look for additional partners, whether it be the town of Basalt or Eagle County or even a ski company, if you to get some land at a reasonable price, and how do you cover all your construction costs up front?
Well, the model, again, has worked really well for us, and it is dependent on getting land at little or no cost. And so if it's an outright gift or a long-term lease like we have with Pickens County at Hunter Longhouse, that's an important component of the model. We have on our board almost all the expertise that we need to develop a project, and being able to bring those resources to the table at a no or reduced cost certainly helps our soft costs in a development project. But we're looking at certificates of participation, which you just heard about for your facilities project. Looking at being able to finance it through private lenders that are in the valley. Those are two of the areas that we've been interested in. I think there's some opportunities we believe for us to do a project on our own, which we'd like to be able to do just to demonstrate that that's possible for us. But we also recognize if we want to, I guess, make a meaningful difference in the affordable housing deficit, partnering with Pickens County, City of Aspen, Town of Basalt, Eagle County are all opportunities that we want to pursue.
Yeah. John, do you have anything to add?
Nothing specific. I mean, I would commend Sherry and API, the entire board. They have figured out how to manage a property for the betterment of the residents and the affordable housing needs of the community as a whole. And I think we kind of forget about API from time to time because they do such a good job, and they really are. They present a great possibility for a partnership in the future, particularly down Valley, for additional affordable housing units.
Yeah. John P., do we have any idea of when Real America may hear in terms of their tax credits?
I believe they are scheduled to present their project in Denver, I want to say at the end of August. So I'd imagine we'd hear sometime late summer, early fall.
You're aware of that project, I'm sure, Sherry.
We are, yeah.
Maybe there's an opportunity down there if it does go through or doesn't go through. Any other questions?
No, that's great.
That's
Great information.
Thank you very much.
Awesome, thank you for
Thanks.
your time.
Thanks, Sherry. Thanks for coming in.
Well, we're running way ahead of schedule.
That's because I'm sharing. I doubt that. Okay.
Car smells.
I know.
So, well, you had an hour for this.
Yeah.
Okay, well, where could we move on to?
Future agendas?
Because otherwise we're waiting for staff for everything else, right?
Yeah, I wonder if we might take just a quick break, and we might try and realign the Elmo, and I can get messages out to everyone. That
Sure.
may-
Grassroots, we're going to take a short break.
Just because the Elmo is right in my line of sight with the presenters, and
You
they're-
did do an hour and a half of work in 25 minutes, so you deserve a break.
Oh, they're coming to get us.
So mic on is red.
We're going to jump around our agenda a little bit, and we're going to move on to facilities update. Jody, Dave, you just introduce yourselves.
Yes, Jody Smith, I'm the facility superintendent.
And Dave Detweiler, I'm her helper.
So we'll give you a quick update, overview of what we all have going on in the rest of the facilities. Welcome to the library. We're glad you guys are here. We'll start with BOCC. So that is the old bristlecone space. We started our renovation work. We are all dried in on drywall. We're starting to develop where you can actually see what we're doing in there. I have a tour scheduled for the county employees if they want to come down in the morning on Thursday or late afternoon on Thursday. I'll be sending out an email today. So if you guys are available and want to pop in and see what's going on, we'll give you a hard hat. You can check it out. We're still looking at, we've been coordinating over the last couple of weeks about the moves with all of the staff from the Courthouse Plaza down to BOCC. It looks like our first office move will probably be BITS, and this will be firmed up this week. That will move the 24th, 25th of August. And then that next week, we'll be doing the rest of the offices. So the 29th through the September 2nd. And we should be fully occupied down in BOCC pending our permits and all of the rest of the things. We should be occupied before or by September 2nd is our goal right now. Could change. But we'll be posting that out to the rest of the county as soon as that gets a little more firmed up this week and as a proposed until we get our permits.
So Jody, are you finding any surprises at all in terms of as you're doing that remodel down there, whether it be electrical or plumbing or?
No.
No, good.
Wow, that's great.
And what you guys will start to notice in the Courthouse Plaza is that more of the pictures, especially from the BOCC room, now that you guys are moved over here, we're going to start boxing that stuff up and we'll store it until we move back in. On August 11th, we'll be taking the third floor plaza meeting room counters and sink out, and we're going to relocate that down to BOCC. And little bits and pieces of what we can get down there and get installed early, so that we're really just dealing with the furniture. So all of that is a coordinated effort. We work with our moving company tomorrow to go through and come up with the plan that works for them so that they can make sure they're adequately staffed so we can be very efficient and effective in that.
Good.
Any other questions?
Any questions for Jody?
No.
North 40, we're just about to do our final punch list. We have some final inspections for electrical and fire at the end of this week. And then next week we'll be doing our final punch list, and we're still planning on moving in on September 12th. There is a risk factor in there about some grounding for those antennas. So we may end up getting pushed out based on that, but it's not a critical factor right now. But I know Jeff Kruger, who's managing that piece, is working very hard and diligently to make sure he gets that moved through as quickly as he can. But it looks great in there. The dispatchers have been trickling in to see it. I met with the fire chief and the assistant fire chief yesterday. We walked through, and they're very happy with the whole thing. So I think we're getting there.
Great.
What else did I want to talk about? As you know, the jail project is finished and the inmates are moved back in. We're still doing a few little things, hanging up different things for them and that kind of thing. But what I wanted to kind of talk about a little bit is the infrastructure of our buildings. As you know, the library here, when we moved in, we had some sewer line issues that happened, and it turned out that we have some old pipes in this building. They're only 25 years old, but they get a lot of use. And anyway, we found there's some problems, so we're going to be coming back in and doing some clean outs and fixing some of the problems and making sure we remount those lines. But we're also finding out that we have a lot of that in the jail, and part of the project with the jail was to change out some of those pipes as well down below. That building's almost 30 years old, I believe. So, in very high use with different aspects of a jail facility. So we were able to change out a lot of those pipes, but what we found is once we moved in, we had some problems. So again, working on those, but I think every time we touch a building, we tend to run into these, just time to work on our infrastructure. So the library should be good for a while, with the exception of the clean outs. If we end up having more problems, we're going to go ahead and line those sewer lines, just to make sure we're take care of that for the future. The other thing that will be coming back to you, I'm out to bid right now for the library roof replacement. If you recall, during the remodel, we thought that we just had soffit repairs that needed to happen in there, and what we found out is that we had a lot more damage under the tile roofs and the board. I forget what it's called. The protection board. We had a lot more damage in there, and so when we researched that, we found that we really we don't have the right product designed for the pitch of the roof. So we're out to bid right now. We have a pre-bid meeting next week, and we'll be coming back to the board to talk about the fund allocation and what that looks like. And Connie Overton will come with me on that to help us all kind of figure out that piece of it. So that will be coming to you in the next few weeks. And I think...
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Back to the infrastructure of the buildings. So my understanding, when you shut a building down for remodel, like the library with the jail, the sewer lines dry up, and that creates these catches, these snags. So will we be paying attention when we close down our building, and we're replacing all the plumbing as part of our...
We're replacing it all.
Okay, just want to make sure that when we move in, things flow freely.
Yes.
That's a good way to put
Well,
it.
and I think with the bonus with that is that I believe we're replacing the sanitation line
Yeah, everything.
down
All the way down to Rio.
Perfect.
all the
Okay.
way. Yeah, so
Okay. Great.
with that, I'll turn it over to Dave to talk about the big project. If there's anything you
Well,
want to know about.
before you do that, just going back to what Jody's talking about, the pipes are an example, but one of our big themes, as we got started with all these projects, was around infrastructure renewal and modernization. I think as we're running into these issues, we're seeing that we've really reached the time where, we need to be working on this infrastructure and doing the replacement and updating. So I think we're hitting these projects. This is demonstrating that we're hitting these projects at the right time.
Well, and I think, with the 2017 budget that I'm just starting, is that I have an opportunity to look at our 10-year capital plan and really look at, we're always looking at roofs and chillers and those kinds of things, but I think we can be looking at our electrical panels and other things that might need to be upgraded and get those timed out and not wait for a failure. And so I think we have a really good opportunity right now.
Good, Dave?
So on the big project, the highlights are we are now officially in for permit. If you recall, one of my previous updates, we had submitted for permit. It got kicked back for a few technical reasons and a few updates that we needed to do. That all got submitted this past week, and so we're in for review. We are working with the city to try to see if we can expedite their comments and keep that approval process moving. The other big highlight is we will be issuing Monday the final pricing set that we'll use with our contractor to establish that final contract amount. We have no reason to think that our previous budgets are not going to hold because we've had that contractor involved all the way along, and we haven't really had significant scope changes. But we'll have that number mid next month to bring back, and that will be, you know, the contract amount that we move forward with. So we're excited about that. Otherwise, we had a big powwow this morning on utility coordination. That is going to be the lion's share of our time here for a little bit. The old alleyway through here is chock full of utilities in both the city and the county, and all the utility providers have a lot of work to overcome all of the mishmash back there. So we've actually had 2 meetings today. We've got another one at 3 o'clock, and that's a weekly deal to keep all those folks coordinated and on the same page. But I'm confident we'll get all that figured out.
So you don't anticipate having to re-dig up right out here on this alley going around the little circle?
No, not for our reasons. We have no reason to be in the alley behind the library at all. The only place that we all need to get into that we're anticipating is just on the east edge of Galena Plaza as it dumps into the jail where the path goes down. We had installed, because we knew we'd be through that area, some extra vaults and some extra conduits to get out of that area. Ultimately, a lot of that utility, it needs to go up to Main Street, head east, and then back down the Hunter Creek Trail into the Concept 600 alley. There's going to be a little bit of work that happens both on this side and back between the courthouse and jail to realign, reconnect some of those phone data, cable, and then the city's going to be running a new water line. And that was part of the conversation today. We're trying to overcome some issues about that north-south run on Galena, getting out of that new stuff.
All right, thanks for the update. Any questions?
No, good job, guys.
Well, one other thing I'll just say is that I know there's a lot of question going on around the Mill Street, the alley, and the pavers out here, and that they've sunk. And my understanding from a meeting today was that they are going to do some repairs, but they're only, they don't have to dig down and fix that again, that it's more of a surface repair. So that was really good news to hear. So there will be some work out there by the city at some point.
Yes, just pick up the paver, redo the 6 inches of base for that paver.
Yeah.
Put the pavers back
And
on.
they're not anticipating any problems in the wintertime with snow and ice?
Well, the design, I think, is supposed to be able to accommodate that. I think for whatever reason it failed, so they're fixing that.
Yeah. Steve?
I'm curious about the courthouse steps. Is that
Done.
all done? And is there any way to tell if it's working the way it was that you said you thought it would work?
Yeah, so when we did those stairs, we actually watched the wall move ever so slightly, but we did know that it moved. They did get in there and get it secured. We were able to, we grouted it. It looks marvelous. I got a really nice email from Amy Simon, who's the historic preservation for the city. She was thrilled with how it worked. Are we monitoring it? No. We could have SGM come up in 6 months and have a look to make sure that it's still stabilized. Might not be a bad idea. And then I did take a little extra money out of my budget and regrout the front stairs on the north side of the building. South side of the building. That one stone was loose, and so working with Susanna Reed, who's our historic preservation officer, we took that off. We were really happy that it was stable underneath, and we didn't have to take out 2 stones. And they got that all put back together, and so those stairs are in good shape for a while. In the future, sometime in our 10-year plan, I'll probably put in some kind of mitigation to the west side and the front of the stairs, because we have so much of that scale that's building on those walls. And there's some opportunities that I think we can look at doing that. And Suzanne is researching the products, and she'll sign off on and recommend any of that. But
Great.
Great, thank you.
Nothing else you can think of to rebuild or?
yeah.
I was just kidding.
The other project that I'm going to be going out to bid in the probably next week is the Health and Human Services building is up for a boiler replacement, and I'm not sure how that's going to look, but it would be nice to have 2 boilers in there. So we might go 2 smaller so that they can, shift. And right now the detox center or the homeless shelter, they tend to run out of hot water on their showers. So we want to look at our capacity and how we can better serve that community. So
One more project.
yeah, so that'll be done by the winter. And I don't think there's anything else that I'm working on so far.
Great,
So
thank
far.
you.
Thank
All
you.
right, thanks, guys.
Okay, next on the agenda, we're going to go to Midnight Mine paving follow-up with GR Fielding, and then he'll stay on for the next agenda item as well.
Good afternoon. I just need one moment to.
And just
set up-
introduce yourself, GR, for the audience. GR.
Make sure also that the red light's on your.
All right, I am GR Fielding. I am the Pickens County engineer. Thank you, Nate. I'm here today to follow up on the permit application on Midnight Mine Road. As the board may remember, back in May, I had brought an item before the board to look at drainage improvements and paving a section of Midnight Mine Road with a few other safety improvements. At that time, the board felt that the paving was too much of a character change for the area, and directed staff to work with the owner in that area at a dialed back permit application. And through those conversations, we revisited part of a plan that we discussed some time ago to look at a much shorter area of paving and include a number of drainage and safety improvements. Before you, you have a plan sheet, and what's depicted on that plan sheet is the Midnight Mine Bridge across Castle Creek, and that bridge is right here. This bridge is located at the low point of Midnight Mine Road. It's a couple tenths of a mile off of Castle Creek Road. Right now, one of the things that I'd stated in our previous work session is it's usually a good idea to try to get some hard surface going into a bridge to be able to protect those bridge approaches and be able to adequately deal with drainage at the abutments and on those bridge approaches. Right now, after every rainstorm, this area in here and this area in here essentially end up with all of the material that washes down the hill during that rainstorm. And it also develops really bad potholes because we have a pretty flat alignment through that area. So this proposal takes a look, or has us ponder a asphalt apron on each side of for each bridge approach. Castle Creek Castle Creek Road is located approximately here. There's a driveway right here, and so this side on the first approach essentially goes just past the drive and paves to here, which is really where the road starts to kick up back towards Castle Creek Road. And on this side, it comes beyond these two driveway approaches and just ties it into right where the road really gets steep going back up. These limits on this side, I'd say that this is about as, if you're going to do hard surface, this is about as short as you could go. On this side, you might be able to shorten it up to right at the driveway intersection. But the other thing that's pretty significant that's included in the plan too is to include these drains that are located right on each side of the bridge deck. And that is designed to take the water that is now, and the mud that is now reaching the bridge deck, and capture that water and put it down into these small channels that are pretty much existing. This one's existing. This one could use a little bit of riprap, but it's already cut itself in a little bit over the years. And so that's another one of the features. And the last one that I'd like to bring the board's attention to are these lines that are right here. And those represent culverts that would bring water to those same areas, and the water would be collected into a drop inlet that would be a little bit of amenity to collect that water, get it off the road before it goes down into the flat area next to the bridge.
Too big.
The last thing I have a slide for this Midnight Mine conversation is this is the approach on Castle Creek Road. One of the other aspects that we talked about was some safety improvements through here, and the potential for us, because it's the same owner up the hill and here at the corner, is to take down this berm that has the fence and this small rock wall, because as you can see, you can only see a couple feet of Midnight Mine Road here. And so if there's someone driving up, it's a pretty narrow section. They tend to not be all the way to the side, and you come off of Castle Creek Road, you don't have much sight distance, so it can be a little bit troublesome. So with that, I was just trying to keep this to those drainage and safety improvements, minimal amount of paving, and really what staff is looking for is a thumbs up or a thumbs down for staff to process the applicant's permit or not.
And the budgetary?
As far as budget, these improvements right now are proposed by an applicant, and so they're looking to add safety improvements and drainage improvements to the road that they live on, and have offered to pay for those capital improvements.
And then for future maintenance, that actually will save the county money, or?
Yes, I believe that already this summer we've been through this area twice to regrade the road and cut the potholes out at the bridge several times. So I don't think that, I think any improvements here would help save us money in maintenance costs.
George? GR, are the other residents on Midnight Mine Road okay with this proposed level of some improvements, but not doing paving the whole way that was earlier proposed?
Yes, the first time that the applicant had through different iterations of the design, this has been discussed with a lot of the neighbors, and they're okay with it.
And is the gentleman with the land at the corner, is he okay with taking down that berm?
It's the same gentleman.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Because that looks like that'd make it a lot safer intersection.
Yeah, I believe so. And the only other thing that's on our radar that's actually in our right-of-way is eventually we might ask Road and Bridge to either trim back or take a couple of these aspens that are right here, because they block your sight distance from people traveling down Castle Creek Road.
Any other questions?
No, I think our concerns before were just talking with the neighbors from higher up and seeing if they were okay with this, and I think minimalizing the improvements was a wise idea, and I think it'll help with the drainage across that bridge area, and I would not have a problem with some mitigation of those trees, especially with the bike use, with people flying down on their bikes to that intersection. That's probably a really wise decision to make.
Okay, looks like we have a nod.
Yep.
What's up? Great, thanks.
Thanks, GR.
And next, you're going to talk about the Water Creek Road drainage project.
All right, Chris Brody, the county project engineer, might join us. He was running a few minutes later than I was, and we weren't, I don't think, scheduled for this one until 2 o'clock. So I'm going to do my best with everything that of some of the details that he was planning on presenting. But again, I'm G.R. Fielding. I'm the county engineer. This is an update on the Owl Creek project. I believe the last time we had this before you was this past September. And this project is located on Owl Creek Road. It is a few miles up from the airport. And I'm going to take a moment. And try to get us there on Google Earth. I'm guessing at the address, but it got us pretty close. Where the this hand figure is now, that's the recently completed K2 Ranch. This is on the top of the screen, Owl Creek Ranch, and on the bottom of the screen, this is East Owl Creek Ranch. Last time we visited this project, the board had asked us to look at a couple different alternatives. One was if there was any potential at rerouting the road, and quite frankly, minus a few $1 million in acquisitions or condemnation, I don't think that's really possible. The other idea that was suggested was the potential to raise the road through this section, and we took a look at that, and it'd be really difficult because the approach to this section through here is already at about 8.5% grade, and so if we were to raise that up by a foot, we'd just be getting closer to about a 10% grade through here. No matter what we really looked at as far as other alternatives, one thing that was glaring to staff was the fact that we needed to establish a ditch. And a lot of our other road alignments that are similar to this, we already have a ditch, or something's connected into what was historically an irrigation ditch through an agricultural area of the county. That's something that we didn't have here. And so what we have proposed is to start in here where our water issues begin and excavate this ditch. With our right-of-way through here, unfortunately, the ditch wouldn't fit in our right-of-way, and we've already had meetings with all of the adjacent property owners and also the state water commissioner to talk about the waters and how they would connect into a drainage ditch. And essentially, the ditch would begin just about 250 feet or so above where the water currently pumps out of Owl Creek Road. When I say pumping out of Owl Creek Road, what I mean is that there's water that literally pushes through the asphalt and runs down the road in this area. That area is demarked in red as what would be the full ditch alignment that we're looking to construct at this point in time. What you can also see and take note of is this smaller red line is the Owl Creek Trail. And so not only do we have some issues with the water pumping out and refreezing on Owl Creek Road, but there's also an algae bloom that is on both the road and on Owl Creek Trail because of the excess amount of water. There's an existing ditch that's next to the trail that is not always adequate for the flows that go through there. And so this project would not only establish the drainage ditch above this, but continue that through this section next to the trail and improve it to the point where it can actually handle the flows that it's seeing. Here's a little bit more detailed of a look. And you can see that once we zoom in, it gets a little bit more complicated with where some of the irrigation channels are flowing through this area. And these small red areas here are little additions to the project that would help facilitate the existing ditches through the area. And it actually helps the ranch because I believe historically they tied into their ditch up here the way that the water's flowing through here, they're really coming and capturing in through here at this time. And so we'd be able to capture that water a little bit higher and manage it much better through this section. The total ditch length is about 1,200 feet. And again, typically when we have geography like this, we'll have the ditches on both sides of the road because we're going through a low spot. Here, because we don't, a lot of this area through here is kind of mucky. It's a lot of organic material that stays pretty wet. There's a large kind of spider web of old irrigation ditches and drainage ditches and other things. The other thing that complicated this project and what we've found out since our last meeting is that when the county paved this in this section, I believe it was in 1999, we had installed what are called edge drains all the way through this section. And down here is where one of the edge drains daylights, and this runs water all year round. On this side, what we believe happened is that the edge drain has failed, which, after 16 years, that's a pretty decent service life considering how much water and how much material is likely flowing through that area. And so this would help mitigate that issue of the failed edge drain through here by addition of a culvert that goes across Owl Creek Road, and that would basically begin the water flows in the new ditch. And this next slide kind of gives a little bit of context to what we're looking at with the groundwater table and where the water is seen percolating up through the road. This red arrow this way and this red arrow here and this line denotes a cross section. And what it means is that you're looking in the direction of the arrow and you're cutting the earth along this line, and then this is the result of what you see. And so this was the proposed ditch, and this is the road. This is about the location where we see that the water pumps up through the roadway. And this is a location where we have dug a monitoring well for the groundwater. There's two that we had Road and Bridge dig. One was right here, and one was right at the base of this field. And what we found out was that the water elevation up here was about identical with the elevation of where the water is pumping up and through the road. And so the idea is that if we're able to dig the ditch down this far, we're going to be able to relieve that pressure from the water pumping up through the road. And by doing so, the water is not going to get that far down Owl Creek Road. And we're going to be able to capture that where it goes through this lower field and carry that water down. And that area actually ends up draining eventually all the way to Owl Creek. So if we go back to the first slide, this is that 1,200 feet of ditch. And then this is the existing return tail ditch that goes down. And it releases over this hillside, and that ends up in Owl Creek over here. So I think that...
Patty?
Yes, so this is something that I think definitely needs to be done, because you can drive through there at time. There's a current. That water that's coming up on that's on the roadway, it has its own current. And it's not just coming over the road, it's actually flowing down the road. So I think we need to definitely move forward with this before it's even a bigger problem and we have to invest even more money in trying to restore that whole road area.
This is also going to help alleviate a major safety problem, certainly in the late fall and winter and early spring, preventing ice to build up there, and also preventing ice build up on the trail adjacent to the road for bicyclists, which is always as a hazard, as our county manager would attest to.
Yes.
But that would help alleviate all that problems.
Yes.
Steve?
Yeah, I was curious how many accidents there have been in this vicinity. Do you have any records on that?
Well, Steve, accident history is a very, very difficult thing for staff to surmise, because anytime that we have a vehicle accident in a location, typically Colorado State Patrol is who has to take the report. And in going through most of the reports, they have a milepost of the intersection with State Highway 82 and the number of miles from State Highway 82 that accident was. And so it becomes very tedious to try to decipher the different police officers' recollections of, or where exactly did they hit their mileage marker when they came off of 82. So we don't have good data there. We do have some anecdotal data of, from people who've texted me that they just came down Elk Creek Road and they had a little bit of a scare. And then we also know about a couple bicycle accidents just on that section of Elk Creek Trail as well.
GR, the budget that we approved a while back, $110,000 for this will cover.
Yes.
So you're not anticipating going above that budget, or?
I don't, and we've also had conversations with Open Space to have some contribution for the section that's next to the trail for some of those improvements as well. And so, between that and the 110 that the board had already budgeted, I don't anticipate any issues.
Chris, thanks for coming in quickly on short notice. I don't know I think GR did a pretty good job in terms of going over it, unless you have anything to add. Just introduce yourself, please.
Chris Burry, project engineer, and generated some of the design concepts for this project.
Chris is being modest. He generated all of the design concepts and did all of the drawings for us today.
Yeah, and been constantly monitoring our water table wells. I hope you had a chance to go in that. But that's given us a great deal of information, and I'm pretty confident that this solution will, our project will be a solution to the problem here.
Great. Anything we need to get
Good.
done?
Well, two great projects, and both these projects are going to move forward.
Well, with the board's direction today on the Owl Creek Road, we will turn around, go back out to Public Works, and start putting together an RFP for the work.
Great.
And with the Midnight Mine work, I will go back to the owner and say that they can do final submittal for their permit, and we'll move forward and see what that timing looks like. I'd anticipate that would probably be a pretty good fall project for a local company up on Midnight Mine
And then
Road.
how's that Midnight Mine? Because it's funded by a private individual. Do we invoice them? Do we get some sort of bonding to ensure that we're going to get our money?
So typically with this type of work, we allow them to do the contracting, and we will bond the work through the permit process. Something that's as involved in this is we'll go through and do a final design review with the applicant, and we'll also do more than just our typical 2 or 3 inspections during the work. We'll probably be there a couple times a week.
So I'm a little confused now. So the applicant actually hires the contractor to do the work and pays the contractor?
Yes.
We bond over that, and we just
We
oversee it?
require a performance bond that runs with every project for 2 years. That performance bond is essentially set to the level where if any part of the project were to fail, or if they were to be non-performing in their permit, that the county can come back and perform that work against that bond.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Let's see. We can move on to future agendas.
Thanks, George, and this will be quick also. I just want to know for the board, as we look around, the setup in this room is a little bit different, more complicated, and we can't leave it set up this way between meetings, which as we are scheduling executive sessions in the future, we are likely going to need to schedule them in another location than this room. Grassroots needs anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour to do the full setup for the room. And so where in the past we've been scheduling 15 minutes to 30 minutes, that's not going to work anymore. So we're still working on locations going forward. but we'll figure that out. We're either going to use, until we move out of the plaza, we may schedule exec sessions back over there and then in maybe smaller meeting rooms here.
So if our exec sessions start at 10 o'clock, which is sort of normal, or more likely, we
Yeah.
could also try to schedule at the end of the day, but they still need time to take down. But
They need time to take
But if we
down.
start at 10 o'clock, if that would give them a 9 o'clock, an hour to get set up.
Either that, or if we go from 10 till noon and have a lunch break, then the setup for all the electronic portion could happen then, and we could just sit at the tables for exec. So just a note for the board, our transition, we're learning new things like where to place the Elmo and the speakers tables and those sorts of things as we go along, and we'll be working through that in the future too. That's kind of a loose end right now
Okay.
for us.
That's all.
Otherwise, I don't have any other future.
Anybody else have
agenda
anything for future agenda? Steve? And then Patty?
On Tuesday, August 16th, there is an event in Glenwood Springs, which is the Colorado River Basin Stakeholders Meeting on Integrated Water Planning. And I talked to Lisa McDonald yesterday. We were both at the Basin Roundtable meeting. To make sure, I want to make sure that the county is adequately represented at that. And I'm not sure if Rachel would want to try to be there in person, but for sure we want to get, perhaps Laura or John or Lisa or different staff people to represent us there if we don't have a commissioner there. So that's something I think to talk about with Rachel when she gets back, if she wants to try to be there at that meeting. Or just let staff handle that.
Sure.
Patty?
Did you have anything else, Steve? Was that it? Okay. When is the Gunnison County Commissioner meeting in Marble? I didn't see it anywhere.
Oh, thank you. So, it is August 9th, and I still need to, I've spoken once with my counterpart, and I owe him a call back. There was a little bit of confusion
Yes.
about that meeting and the invite. So, Gunnison County commissioners had contacted their staff to indicate that Pickens County wanted to have a joint meeting again on other items. And what I suspect happened is when we were having dinner, there was one-on-one conversations between board members about us having other topics that we'd like to discuss, whether it be the broadband issue or the Crystal Trail or what have you. And so what actually happened was Gunnison County was coming back over to Marble to do a panel discussion on wild and scenic. And while they were here, wanted to invite us to have a joint meeting on the other topics that we had discussed. And so we went a little bit back and forth where we thought Gunnison County had requested it and Gunnison County thought we had requested the meeting. So I apologize for the confusion there. They are going to be coming over to Marble on August 9th, and felt like if we wanted to coordinate another meeting on the other topics for that time, we could try and do that. So I don't know if that's confusing or if that's clear.
Well, no, it was. We did have the discussion, and they were actually very interested in having a meeting with us to talk about other things. I didn't. We had, it was just kind of an open, let's get together again. We have some other things we'd like to talk about, and just have the time for the two boards. I didn't know anything more than that. So
And I didn't think it was their intent that we'd participate again necessarily in the wild and scenic conversation unless you wanted to be part of that. But it was an opportunity to talk about other topics.
So do we have any sort of timing on this for us, for our meeting?
In terms of time of day?
Yes.
Right now, we'd anticipate probably between 3 or 4, depending on the topics. I believe their panel is at 6 again.
So because we would probably only need maybe an hour with them.
Yeah.
So,
And meet them in Redstone?
Either Redstone or Marble. That their manager was still nailing down. He had just come back and had not been part of that conversation either. So
all right. So it seems like for us, since it's a regular work session day and we'll be traveling, the later in the afternoon would be best, and prior, and then allow enough time for them to be able to have their meeting.
So that was going to be my question. Does the board still desire to get together with Gunnison County and talk about these other issues? And if so, I'll go about coordinating with their staff when they're going to be over and setting up the timing of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be a good idea, especially since they're going to be over on this side of the hill.
Yeah.
Take advantage of that.
Right.
And we could shoot for either, if it's more convenient for them, would you be open to meeting in Marble, or?
Sure.
It's about 20
Once you're on that
It's
road,
about
you
20
just keep-
minutes more, yeah, to get up there.
Yeah, they've come a long way. We can go the extra 20, and
Okay.
and then we'll just need staff to get us the information about the broadband, that tower site, which I think there's some issues with the Forest Service, and with the trail, with open space and trails to.
Yeah, we can set staff up
Yeah.
to be there.
Then we have that great barbecue up there afterwards.
They got
There
the slow
is,
grooving.
I have to recommend the ribs if we're up there, so.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I think that would be great. And then the timing is a little quicker than we thought, but since they're going to be over, George is right. I think we
Okay.
should take advantage of that.
Well, I'll work with their staff.
Okay, that
with
was one thing. The other one is on the 2nd, we have another 2-hour meeting with, as the Board of Health. Are we going back to the discussion of where we're taking the Board of Health, the health?
Correct.
Community
So today you have just the departmental update at the
Right,
end of
with
the day.
Nan.
The, on the 2nd, that's actually a joint meeting with the Community Health Services Board. And so there's going to be a couple of things. Staff has been working on what a potential transition plan would look like, everything from staffing and costs to where people might sit. And so our intent is to follow up on the Keystone policy recommendations with that additional information about a potential implementation strategy, and then open up the conversation between the Board of Health and Community Health Services.
Yeah, because we
Board.
really needed the fiscal, because we
Yeah.
didn't really know
Yeah.
what the costs were going to be to the county. Okay.
Well, wait, can I just tag on for real quickly? Will the Community Health Board of Directors be invited to this meeting as well?
Yeah, it is set up for Community Health Services Board and the Board of Health
Okay,
to meet
great.
together.
So both boards.
Yeah.
That's why I was going, what are we talking about for 2 hours? But that makes
Yeah.
perfect sense. And then there's another one on August 24th at a regular meeting. We're doing a first reading for the Open Space and Trails Agreement with the Colorado Department of Parks and Wildlife on the use of the Deer Creek open space. I would like to have a discussion. I understand what the issue is about the house that's there. We haven't talked about it, and I would like to maybe talk about it before we just get hit with it at first reading.
So a work session?
Yeah, just so we know what's going on. Because I don't, the first reading, and it's just the first time we've ever heard it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Again, let me tag on to that. Thanks,
You can
Patty.
tag on to that.
Because I had asked for us to have a work session with Open Space just in terms of their overall planning process to try to better educate the public because some of the letters are really coming out from without any understanding on the processes that we're using and the master plans and how they're being developed.
So we're working towards that on August 9th.
Great.
Yeah,
Before or after we drive to Marble and have slow groove?
that's August 2nd,
Oh, it's August 2nd.
I believe.
No, August 9th is
No.
when we're
Oh,
going
is
to.
it August 9th?
Yeah.
Or-
August 9th. Anyway, so
August
The
2nd is like
second
next
was-
week.
Yeah, it is.
No, that's okay. So those are the questions I had. Thanks, George.
okay, that's it for future agendas. Let's move on to, I see our ComDev staff are here for special events permit.
Is Nancy
This
gonna-
will be interesting.
We'll have like an hour break.
Push the button on, red light is on.
Red lighting's on, okay. Mike Graber with Pickett County Community Development Staff. And frequently we update the board on special event permits that get submitted. This one just was submitted late last week. And it was submitted by Kareem Suki on behalf of Aspen Valley Ranch, and we actually were planning to come here at 3:30 with Kareem himself, and then also Alex with the Sheriff's Office, but we're running a little bit early. We wanted to update the board on an application that was submitted for a benefit fundraiser for Hillary Clinton. And the application is short notice and is scheduled for August 2nd of next week. And the event, in the application, they state approximately 85 guests will be part of the event, and then obviously staff associated with it. And basically, it's a campaign fundraiser for the Democratic nominee. And she might not be the nominee, but she might have accepted this morning, I think. I can't remember.
It was sometime today, I think.
Sometime today, I think it was happening. But the reason we want to bring it to the board is that it's a quick turnaround, number one. And number two, in 2011, the BOCC did a full review of Aspen Valley Ranch and the different parcels that were associated with it. I was not the planner at the time, but I do have a resolution here from 2011. And interestingly, there's a condition in here that speaks to events at the ranch. And the reason we're bringing it to you is because it was a BOCC condition. If it's okay, George, I just would read it so I can explain
Certainly.
to the board. Okay, so condition number 14 of BOCC Resolution 81-2008, it says the ranch house on the agricultural facilities parcel is exempt from growth management up to a maximum of 3,500 square feet of floor area. The ranch house shall be used only for events hosted by the association or individual homeowners at Aspen Valley Ranch, and shall not be used for commercial or other public events, including benefits. The ranch house may contain a kitchen and bathrooms, but no bedrooms. And the proposed location for the benefit is on what this is called the agricultural facilities parcel. And if you remember the maps from Aspen Valley Ranch, it was up Dry Woody Creek and next to the canyon there, just below Triangle Peak. And what the Sukis are asking for is to have this fundraiser for Ms. Clinton at the agricultural facilities parcel. They do not want to do it at the ranch house. They want to actually build a tent outside of the ranch house and have the benefit fundraiser there. And they have interpreted that condition to mean that, hey, we're not doing it at the ranch house, we're actually building a tent outside the ranch house and doing the fundraiser on that parcel. So it's vague, it's interpretive, but we thought that it warranted the board to understand what was going on and what the condition is.
So if they're going to be putting up a large tent for the actual event, it would be similar to, let's say, where we recently had the annual buddy program fundraiser, which is up on Boogie's Ranch, and he has a large tent on there, so it's not in his barn. It's sort of a similar idea.
That's exactly right. The Boogie's Bash fundraiser is, they obviously won't be identical. This is a different event, but fundraising, dinner, music, the standard things that we see with our fundraising benefits in the county.
So let me just again to clarify. So if they're not using the actual building, what's the issue? I know you just read that, but they can't even use according to that resolution, they couldn't even use that part of the property?
Well, that's not what the condition reads. What they're representing is that they build a tent outside the ranch house and not use the ranch house for the event. They would only be building a tent on that parcel where the ranch house resides. So if you can picture the parcel, they have to make the ranch house, and then they build a tent on the outside of that. And we want to make the board aware that that condition exists and that the proposal is to use that parcel for this benefit fundraiser.
Again, but they're not using the ranch house.
That's correct.
They're just using the ag parcel.
Okay, Patty?
Yeah, there's a really nicely refurbished barn that sits right there. There is enough room. I'm really familiar with that parcel. And the ranch house isn't big enough for an event as this, so they couldn't use it anyway. So I think that they're steering clear of the specifics as read in the resolution about using the ranch house. So I think they're okay to go. If there's good, everybody else clears it, the public safety organizations, et cetera, are all okay, then I don't see a problem interfering with that resolution.
And I see the sheriff is here with his top dog, Alex. This is another
In our new room,
challenge for you. Do you want to? You may just have to step up to the podium.
step up to one of the mics to
to one of the
speak to.
mics to go over what your plans are and how that may impact your department. You can sit there, Alex, too. Just introduce yourself.
I'm Alex Burchetta, I'm the Director of Operations at the Sheriff's Office. I'll get a chair.
We're not used to the new setup.
No,
It's all right, we're not either.
Neither are we.
We're winging it.
I don't have anything specific to say about the event. I'm happy to answer questions. There's a certain security element that I can't go into with it, but happy to answer any questions.
So I guess my initial question is, since we just had Vice President Biden here and they had a sort of a moving roadblock going up 82, I suspect that may happen again, or what would the public, what are the impacts that the public should be aware of?
I think hopefully minimal, and I would actually say, based on conversations, a little less than what you saw with Vice President Biden in terms of those roads being blocked as the motorcade goes from point A to point B. But we'll do everything that we can. I was just talking to the sheriff. We're actually going to activate the county incident management team to provide an overhead structure and a management structure for this incident, so that should it go from small to big, God forbid, we have a structure in place, but we're going to do everything we can to minimize the impact to the citizens of the county, specifically in that area between the airport and that route.
Because I'm assuming, maybe I'm assuming wrong, that the planes would be coming into the Eagle County Airport versus the Pickens County Airport?
This plane can come in here.
Most likely, in the past, this person's flown into Aspen Airport, and if she ends up flying into Eagle Airport, the motorcade's handled by a separate agency, by State Patrol.
Okay.
I think this plane that this person will be traveling on is capable of landing at our airport. So it'll make a shorter travel distance. Yep.
Another question, Steve?
Mike, is the location, I remember there was an area that was kind of a flood catchment basin. Is it somewhere in that vicinity they were going to put the tent up?
It's in that vicinity, but it's not in that location. But you're right, there is a flood detention basin where there's lower topography near the ranch house, and they would obviously have to avoid that when they're building the tent.
Okay, but they're not going to put the tent in that,
I don't think so.
the catchment basin area.
As far as I'm aware, they are not doing that.
Okay, I could see it, potential disaster happening there if the tent was in the wrong spot and a big downpour came right at that moment.
You mean when Dry Woody was no longer Dry Woody? Yeah.
Well, this is always one of the unique things that Pickens County and Aspen always, I guess it's a double-edged sword, has the opportunity to invite and host people such as a presidential nominee for the Democratic Party, as well as previously the Vice President of the United States. So it's exciting for Pickens County, for Aspen, and I know you guys, the Sheriff's Department, has always done such a job in terms of ensuring the health and safety of not only the event, but also all the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, great. Thanks for bringing it forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're going to go on to discussion. Is John Ely coming back for open discussion? Or is that a different agenda item? That's something different. Okay. Never mind.
So,
Open discussion.
Well, we did have the joint meeting prep with the city of Aspen. I don't know if you guys.
Oh, I missed that. I'm sorry.
Go to that.
Let's do that.
And I believe The board had a conversation about potential joint topics while I was gone during future agenda. No.
Well, we didn't actually nail down any topics at all. We just
okay.
we just suggested if there was an interest of any topics that were going to be timely and pertinent, but nothing came out. We were going to save that for today's discussion.
Okay.
The one topic that I know we were interested was the broadband opt-out question, to see if we can't encourage them to get it on the ballot so we can move forward with joint partnerships, is my understanding. And we should need to have that discussion with Snowmass also, I would. And what about Basalt too? So we need to do that, and probably in a real timely manner to get those questions on the ballot for November. And I don't know what else came up. I can't remember, George, what else, other topics came up.
I see that we have an hour, so it's a little bit shorter meeting than what we've had in the past.
Do they have any topics they want us to discuss?
I have a call in to Steve. I have not heard back yet. I know when Phyllis had talked to city staff while I was gone, there were no topics that they had at that time.
If anything, if we needed to do a quick facilities update, so the city council is aware of how we're moving with our building and you know, moving dispatch out, and because I'm not sure city council is in that loop, and I'm not sure that we're necessarily in the loop of the building being built next door, what their timeframes are for that. So I don't know, we could touch on that, but you know, it's too bad Michael's not going to be here for the meeting, since he's the one who said thought it would be a good idea if we just sat down and talked with each other. So I guess we can talk about Michael since he won't be there.
Yeah, and it may be a good time if we do broadband and facilities, we'll eat up a good chunk of an hour. Yep. By the time 10 of you have had an opportunity to ask questions or make comments. It may also be good to spend that time talking a little bit again. We've tried this before and hasn't been terribly successful, but to talk about, give both boards time to talk about what issues you all would like to talk about going forward, kind of almost a broader future agenda. We've only left 5 or 10 minutes for that, which isn't enough time to really talk about what issues do these two bodies, the City of Aspen and Pickens County, need to be talking about.
What's the status on recycling? We were going to have a discussion with the city on that.
Yeah, actually, I just asked Kathy Hall for background information. They were going to consider it as part of their 2017 budget, was my understanding.
So this would be sort of a timely time to have that discussion as they're going into
we could
budget?
Certainly bring it up as an item, yeah.
To actually talk about on our joint meeting? Just remind them that they're going to talk about...
if they're going to look at it for budget, and it doesn't mean they're going to actually approve it.
Correct.
Yeah, we
should have a discussion about it as they're going into budget season.
Yeah. For future meetings with the city, I actually am interested because of the proximity to the county line. The annexation at the end of Hopkins and 8th Street for the hotel, because we have a constituency that's going to be really impacted from that, county constituency, and the other one is the Lift 1A. And so those are future discussions that we need to, I think, be in that loop too, because it does affect the county, Forest Service, and the city all at that Lift 1A parcel. We'll just have to see how that parcel moves along. It could be done, who knows what'll happen. But that's another topic that, if we have the opportunity, it would be nice to have an update on that somewhere down the line.
And I think we can do that. I guess we'd have to see where they're at in
the future.
quasi-judicial,
Yeah, exactly. Those are only two items that I think of in the future.
Steve?
I was wondering about the status of their 10 strategic initiatives they're working on, and if there's anything they would want to update us on or ask for our assistance in working on any of those initiatives.
For future discussions?
Well, either that or possibly for, a brief update at this meeting perhaps.
I don't know if we'll have time for that if we're doing the other, but.
Yeah, and I think I'd want to kind of look at timing wise, is the Rio Grande ready to go now? Do we want to do that maybe our next joint meeting? But this gives us more than an hour to work with of material for sure. So.
Okay.
And snacks.
And snacks, I think, to see who's hosting.
I think we are.
Open discussion. Anybody else? Patty?
Yeah, and the other open discussion is I received a call from a member of the Snowmass Capitol Creek Caucus wanting to meet with me, and I wasn't sure how we wanted to deal with the issues that are going on in that caucus, and I don't know if anybody else had heard from caucus members, and I'm not I just don't know where the Board of Commissioners fits in their discussion to separate the caucus. Because it's my understanding that the caucuses are created to work autonomously from the Board of County Commissioners and bring to us their suggestions. I don't know how the board plays. If they were to split, we would have to approve of the new caucus formation. But I just don't know where it stands right now and how involved or how much in the middle a member of the board should be in their discussion. I just don't know.
Well, I think it's just, I met with Jan yesterday, and it was just mainly informational, although Jan has sent a formal request to the county requesting that they be recognized as their own caucus. So it's just an opportunity to get some information. I had suggested to Jan and to ComDev that perhaps we would look at having a work session just to have a broader discussion as well. So,
Well, it's funny, she didn't mention she'd talked to anybody.
well,
so-
this was just yesterday.
She called me yesterday.
Yeah, well, it could have been before or
Yeah.
after. Anyway, so
So I'll call her back, and she wants to meet with me on Monday if we can work out the timing. So,
yeah, she just gives you the background information.
okay. I just wanted to make sure that I don't want to muddy the waters any more than that might be muddied.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a discussion with Rachel about my role as, living in the caucus area, and, there is a possibility I would have to recuse myself from a discussion on the decision. So I think we might want to consult with John Ely perhaps on which direction we should go
On your participation?
just on any discussions that we have, if we get calls from, because I've gotten several phone calls from different residents on, both sides of it, and I've so far haven't responded to any of the phone calls or.
Yeah, I think your position is different than the rest of us. So I think George is right. If for me to meet with somebody and just get information and not give advice or jump in the middle of the fray, I don't have a problem doing that. But for you, with your wife is on the board and it's your caucus, I think it'd be cleaner and more comfortable if you just stepped out of it. But it's really, I don't think there's a technical conflict, but it could be perceived as such by some.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, George?
Yeah, I would just check with John Ely and see what makes the most sense.
Okay, I'll call Jan back and schedule a meeting with her. That's all I had.
I had a request from the chairperson from the Scenic Byway Committee. He actually sent out, it's John Hoffman, former council trustee for town of Carbondale. He's been the chair, has been doing a great job. And the Scenic Byway is in need of a reprint of the brochures. They finally have run out of brochures, so he sent an email to all the participating members to ask for contributions to be able to do another print of their brochure, which should last for several years. And in his email, he suggested from $300 to $500. We are one of the larger players, and they've been certainly very helpful to us. As you may recall, we were able to complete the kiosk up in Redstone because of monies that the Scenic Byway was able to transfer over from another project. So it's a great organization. Redstone is right on the Scenic Byway. I think we should contribute $500 to the reprint, and we could take that out of probably our discretionary fund.
Yeah.
How much did we contributed before, years ago? Do you remember how much? I don't have a problem with the 500. I think it's well worth it, and it is a scenic byway in all terms of it, the words. So
Okay.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
I'm glad you brought that forward, George.
And maybe, John, would you notify John Hoffman, or do you want me to do that?
I can do that. I'm going to need some contact info. John
Okay.
Hoffman.
Yeah, I'll get you his contact. Okay, that's it for open discussion, or?
I'll just give one quick update. You all may have seen a newspaper article related to the detox center that we've been in partnership on. And we are working that issue right now. There is a question around the budget and what requirements that the detox is going to be required to operate under, and basically it's whether they have to have 1 or 2 people, and we've currently been using a model with 1 person, and so
Trying to get a waiver.
if we do have to go with 2, obviously there's a pretty big, this is almost all personnel in terms of costs, and there's some other costs in there, but it's primarily personnel, so it's a big change to what we have been doing. We're looking at other models and such right now, and we're going to be meeting with our partners, so I'm not sure that the increase that we're fearing is going to be real just yet. So we're going to be setting up meetings really throughout August to try and nail down what the model is and how do we keep this service viable in Pickens County. More to come. I wish I could give you more details at this point, but I think we need to work through them.
Okay, I just got an email, Pickens Alert. It's just a notification, it's not an emergency, but traffic in and out of Aspen will be heavier due to the Glenwood Canyon closure July 27th and 28th from 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. And what that raises in my mind is the trucks coming over Independence Pass and how we may get ahead of that.
Yeah, we've certainly we did ask staff to reach out to CDOT with our concerns when that was first announced. They're doing rockfall mitigation in Glenwood Canyon. I guess they're helicoptering in some beams and wires and such that they're going to be putting up for to prevent the rockfall onto the interstate, and have suggested rerouting traffic on US Highway 50 and Independence Pass. Obviously, that does raise the concern. I do not know if CDOT has responded with signage yet in their electronic signs, but we express concerns about that. And I've got a call into the sheriff to talk about, do we need some eyes on the pass. Obviously, though, it'd be better for us to have eyes on our side as well as Lake County having eyes on their side.
I think we definitely need to do that.
Yeah, I'd be more concerned about Lake County, and because trucks coming up from Denver, hopefully we should make sure CDOT has some electrical signs right by the junction there as you split off of I-70, not only for trucks, but any vehicles over 35 feet in length, because you've got a lot of campers
Collins, trailers and boats.
Coming through.
Yeah.
And there, and also then right at the junction, 82 coming off of, before you get into Twin Lakes. That's still Highway 50?
I think that's,
Highway
is that
83.
24?
Highway 24.
Highway 24.
So I think we need to really beef up some signages and see what sort of help CDOT can give us, and even the State Patrol.
Yeah.
I did talk to a gentleman yesterday who couldn't believe the big semi truck coming over Independence Pass, and he wasn't sure how the guy was going to fit. I said, well, the guy shouldn't have been there, and so they're doing it again, and we had more incidents last year that we were actually ticketed. So the number is increasing rather than decreasing with all these efforts. So I think, George, you're right on the mark for Wednesday and Thursday.
And I think if we can get that signage, not only to say that the pass is closed for vehicles over 35 feet in length, but there's a $1,000 fine and you will be ticketed. Make that really clear.
Yeah, and obviously the rockfall mitigation is ahead of the Grand Avenue Bridge discussion, but we're continuing to work with the Independence Pass Foundation and CDOT to see what kind of physical improvements we may be able to make at those closure gates where we're asking vehicles over 35 feet to turn around, both on the Pickens County side and Lake County side. Obviously, this issue is ahead of that. We had pretty short notice on this.
Yeah. Steve?
Looking ahead, when the Grand Avenue Bridge is closed, the only way for semis to get into the Roaring Fork Valley on Highway 82 would be to go through that west, they take the West Glenwood exit and either do the Midland Avenue or that new cutoff from 7th to 8th Street, which then means there'd be semis either going through the roundabout by the Sunlight Bridge or going through city streets, turning corners by 8th and maybe 9th Street. And I could see a lot of trucks might try to sneak over Independence Pass as an alternative to that during that several month period. So maybe this is kind of a little preview of
What we need
the
to
thinking
do.
we might have to go through ways to address that issue.
Yeah, and like I said, we're looking for what kind of physical improvements could we make, because as we've seen, we had success going to the legislature to get the fines increased. We've been handing out those fines, but we are still seeing a roughly equivalent number. At least last year we did, of vehicles over 35 feet coming over the pass. So we've certainly been making efforts to try and prevent that and disincentivize it, but it may require a real physical barrier for those larger vehicles.
Okay.
Yes. One more item. Sitting here listening to the lawnmower going and freezing to death. Just quick feedback on this room. If we could talk to the City Parks Department.
I have it right here on my list.
Schedule their mowing schedule for when we're not having a meeting here. That would be appreciated.
Well, the other thing is too is the sprinklers all went on. When people could, there was a lady trying to have her lunch here and she got soaked with the sprinklers. So that's the great time for people to enjoy it, because the park is beautiful. It's a great place for people to come over and come up from Tasters or whatever and have lunch there. They're mowing the lawn and they have the sprinklers on at lunchtime. So if you want to call Jeff, or I don't have a problem calling Jeff Woods. I talk to Jeff a lot about the city parks since I'm
also
directly impacted by them.
Also, the temperature of this room, if they could raise the temperature a little bit, and it almost feels like it's being air conditioned now, colder than it perhaps
I actually
needs.
have a breeze blowing through my hair if you want
So maybe it just needs some tweaking on, and I don't want to start messing around with anything on the wall, but maybe somebody could.
I just sent Jody an email telling her the breeze had actually warmed up a bit since I've been sitting here.
Okay. Did you give Nan a
So
heads up,
Nan has a crew that they're organizing. They won't be here till 2:30 though, so we might want to take a little bit longer break. We'll still get out here early.
That's fine. That's great. So Grassroots, we're going to take a break. We'll reconvene here at 2:30. Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, is that grassroots back there?
One more minute.
When you're ready, let's rock. Okay, welcome back. We're on to our last agenda item, which is a Health and Human Services update with Nan Sundin, and behind her is a cast of 1,000.
The team, the Health and Human
Welcome.
Services team. So I'm Nan Sundin. It's a pleasure to be here for Health and Human Services budget update. We come to you all quarterly with Board of Social Services updates. So we're going to try to make this a little different, but we're following suit with all the other sections in Pickens County to talk a little bit about our successes and our challenges in 2016. So I'm going to just talk a little bit about our section, and then I'm going to invite our 3 departments up to introduce staff and talk about their successes and challenges. So this is informational and relaxed, and the reason why we brought brownies is because this is a new room, and so this is really exciting, and also every day is a good day to celebrate the people who work in Health and Human Services. These are the people that show up when everyone else is afraid to. They work with the most difficult people. They support a whole range of needs in the community. And I'm really honored to work with them and have them meet you again today and talk about what they do. So this is a celebration of Health and Human Services, because in a year we might be different.
And you'll be bringing chocolate chip cookies.
Yeah, and then we'll bring something else to celebrate. So anyway, Health and Human Services is comprised of basically 3 departments. Health and Human Services Administration, which is generally what Mitzi runs, and that is where we do advocacy and evaluation of health and human services needs in the community, veteran services, economic security, which is all of our public assistance programs, emergency support function 6, which is mass care, housing, and human services in the event that there's an emergency, and the Healthy Community Fund. We also have a senior services department, and they're responsible for services to those over 60, including information and referral, nutrition, transportation, fitness and wellness, social and educational needs, and aging well strategic plan. And finally, we have the Adult and Family Services Department, and they're responsible for all prevention, intervention, case management, and protective services for vulnerable adults, children, youth, and families. A few years ago, our section drafted vision, mission, and values, and I see on the horizon the potential that we might need to revisit that in the next year. But we work together really to optimize the quality of life by building and providing responsive and integrated health and human services. We value flexibility, honesty, quality, respect, inspiration, leadership, and diversity. And we envision a community that is diverse, vibrant, healthy, and where all people thrive. And that's what we spend our days doing. Just a quick update about what you all know I've been doing as separate from my team. The last 6 months has been sort of a tsunami of potential change with the public health restructure, the senior services transition from Marty to Chad. Very exciting, but a lot of work, by the way. But we're very happy with the changes. And the access to health issues, Mountain Family Health, how are we going to provide those services? We've been working really hard to ensure the security of the Health and Human Services building, and we had our first drill in ever that I can remember last month, and we have fortified the building with some very significant and up-to-date security features that are really relevant for a community mental health center. So we're excited about that. And we've spent a lot of time on the Health and Human Services brand, which no one will notice unless you look at our business cards, our website, and our letterhead. But we're excited because it begins to relay those values and the mission that we're intending to work towards. And working on the detox and keeping a sustainable detox in the building, expanding childcare engagement to Garfield County, and as you all know, just a ton of contracts, and trying to redo our contracts with you all so that we can move them forward faster since they come annually, and keep track of them, help you keep informed of what we're doing. And in fact, tomorrow I have 2 more. One is a child care and Colorado Works Memorandum of Understanding that comes every year. So I'm hoping if you all give me permission to sign that in the future, we can keep that program going. And the second one is a work number program where our eligibility technicians can meet with a client and call a number in real time and get their work verification so that we can speed up eligibility for food assistance and other programs. So that's what I'll be talking to you about tomorrow. So I'm going to have Mitzi come up and introduce the Health and Human Services administrative staff and talk about their success and challenges, and then Chad, and then we're really fortunate today that Matt McGaw is going to present for Kim, but I'll be up here with him and his team to support them. Thanks.
Okay, great. Do we want folks to come sit up? Yeah, come sit up, everybody. All right. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Welcome.
So this is the Health and Human Service Administrative Department, which is, again, these 3 folks and myself. Susan Markwood is the administrative assistant for the division, and she wears multiple hats, sitting in the front of our building in the booth area, greeting customers, being the receptionist for the entire building, as well as watching over all of our programs and processes, and basically keeping everyone moving. So that's Susan's role. And then Lisa Yorker to my right is the Healthy Community Fund grants coordinator. And it's been wonderful to have Lisa. Her position was increased to 4 days a week this January, and it's been fantastic because, as you all know, the grant program continues to grow, is very complex administratively, and so we have a good team going right now for the Healthy Community Fund. And then Scott Ring, who began his position at the end of September, part-time as the Pickens County Veterans Service Officer. As you remember, we're very excited to start our own office for veterans support in Pickens. We're covering veterans through a contract with Garfield County, but due to some administrative changes, we were able to create our own office with Scott. So he's been a wonderful asset to our unit, our department. So let me just talk about some of our successes this year. Again, having the Healthy Community Fund assistant position has been really valuable, as well as Scott coming in to provide more outreach and assistance for veterans in actually filing claims. So folks are coming to him, some with very complex backgrounds, and he is able to provide that link with the state VA, with the VA hospital, and support people in getting their claims filled. So that's been very good. In food security, you'll remember that we did receive the notice that Pickens County is the lowest of the low in counties in Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program enrollments, or SNAP, food stamps. So when we got that word, you know, we really wanted to study that, and we still do. We want to really understand, why are we having so many more eligible folks come in for health insurance, Medicaid? We've had just a boon in Medicaid numbers, but not the same response in food assistance. So we had a very successful meeting in May in which we included our regional partners. So we had many folks from Eagle and Garfield County attend this meeting, and actually everyone is looking at this issue. We are not alone. Actually, Colorado is 46th in the country for food assistance, so it's a statewide concern. But the group met, and each county came up with some ideas about how they were going to tackle this issue, and we're going to have an update on those program changes in September, which will be a regional meeting where we'll update each other on what we're doing to try to address that. And so that analysis is going on, and I think hopefully will be successful for us. We really want to improve enrolling eligible families in that program, and others. Also, Nan mentioned the security issues that we were very involved in doing, so that's been a big success. And also, let's see, what else can I mention? Well, I think those kind of cover it primarily. In terms of challenges, I think that we really want to mention that an ongoing issue for administration has been related to economic security, really developing a more robust workforce program in Pickens County. Like, we really would like to see more opportunities for people to get training and help with employment, actually locally. So we're
I'm smiling at her.
Yes, well, you know, it's been very slow going, but I think we have some avenues for growth with the Colorado workforce, as well as some of our nonprofit partners who are doing some great work in this area. But I think we just need a more robust approach to this. I will say that the state has granted Pitkin County an additional 12-month waiver from having to stand up an Employment First program. And what that is basically a welfare to work program in economic security that does require that folks who are on food assistance, a certain category of folks, primarily those that don't have children and don't have other exemption needs, would need to be in work experiences in order to receive that subsidy. And if they are not, they would no longer be eligible for food assistance. This program is, we have been given another waiver. It is, I'm sure, a program that will come online for us at some point. It's been staggered among the counties as to who has provided this. Many counties have done it consistently, but there were those exempted during the recession, and now they're coming back online. So it's an opportunity for us to study how other counties are doing it and maybe learn from them so that we can model a program when it comes our time. So it's a challenge, though, and something that you know, we're really wanting to make a dent in. as Nan kind of alluded to, with so many contracts that we manage for different programs, and with just the level of detail in a lot of the work that we do with programs, we're finding that it is stressful for us to feel like we can devote as much time as we need to contracts and fiscal management. So those administrative fiscal demands are really, we're feeling it right now. It's almost as if, you know, there's just not enough hours in the day to take care of your collaborative meetings and your work with partners, as well as take care of the administrative pieces. So that's a challenge in Health and Human Services, is really, you know, how do we deal with the escalating pace of demands of interagency collaborations that we have to be involved in, both mandated and unmandated? How do we deal with that, and then also pay the best attention that we can to smooth operations? So it's just something that we're very aware of right now. The other thing would be outreach and awareness. Kind of goes along with this, that with our focus on the brand and awareness, you know, of what we do and try to get the word out to the public, it's a capacity issue for us. You know, again, being able to focus on doing those kinds of things as we try to do our day-to-day work. So I just wanted to mention that. So, in a nutshell, for admin, that's basically, I would say the last thing that's on the horizon, that has always been on the horizon, that we really haven't had capacity to look at in depth, is the issue of transitional housing for our most vulnerable populations. You know, the fact that we really don't have good resources for our homeless population, where they can be housed in Pitkin County, you know, in a supported environment. That's something that's really lacking. And I think we feel the housing crunch all up and down the valley, actually. It's not just a Pitkin concern, but it's something that's really it's a challenge for us.
You know, last week we had a good presentation from Kathleen from the Valley
Kathleen Killian.
Kathleen Killian from the Valley Health Alliance, and we were looking at some statistics in terms of dealing with stress and
Yes.
and trying to address stress in a workplace. And so all of you are dealing with very stressful situations and clients. So how are each of you, managing your own stress levels? Because that was a real issue in terms of what the report we saw was there was a high use of scripts and people not getting adequate sleep and health issues, and all related back to stress in the workplace.
That's really great. You guys want to
I
say something about that?
Certainly.
I walk my lunch hour every day, so that's fabulous.
And Nan makes us brownies, that helps.
Susan, I know, but
Yeah, makes us brownies.
Susan does give us a good example in the
Yeah.
office, because she does walk on her lunch hour,
Yeah.
which, you know, is an antidote to stress.
Mine isn't so stressful. I only have to deal with the stress of the deadline for the grants
Yeah.
next week.
And here you
Just
are.
little thing.
Yeah.
Deadlines. But yeah, no, that's a real concern, I think, for our entire division, is because, as Nan said, you know, we're the ones who are doing the things and being with the folks that other folks aren't. And you know, being the front line for providing whatever assistance is needed. And so it's a good question. I think for me personally, I'm really trying to sleep more, because I find that if I don't get enough sleep, that's when I really can't have the focus that I need. That's one area, but little things like that in the way you manage your lifestyle, I think, are really important.
So if you can figure out how to sleepwalk, you'll do really well.
That would be awesome.
I just want to say, Mitzi and I sit on the Colorado Workforce Board together, and as John Peacock knows, it was an interesting transition for me when I got back on the board to be appointed to this board, because I had no idea what it's about.
Yeah.
And I've been there for, a year and a half now, and I'm still trying to figure it out, because the Roaring Fork Valley is left out of their programming and their efforts. It's focused on the I-70 corridor.
It's really hard.
And I keep raising my hand going, well, you're doing great. What about us? What about us?
I know.
And trying to get those programs, the work where you have to work to get your benefits, you have to be involved in a work-related
Right.
program.
Right.
They're trying them out in those other counties with some success and with some failure, because a lot of the times it's the clients who are deciding it's not worth it for me. I'd rather not get the benefit, which is
Exactly.
not what's supposed to happen, but what's happening. So it'll be interesting. And Missy's right. We can learn from those experiences, and we need to. So it makes we don't have to reinvent the wheel and then correct it. We can maybe start off going in the right direction. But you guys do a great job being on the front line. The grants, we compact your stress into a very short period of time.
It's a short period. It's a
The
stressful
veterans opportunities, I think we've all acknowledged, as the veterans have, that it was much needed, and we're really happy to have you as part of that. I know Steve he just likes coffee and donuts, so he goes to that one a lot.
We love it when Steve attends.
Yeah.
Scott, could you give a reminder to the public, because this is on the Grassroots TV, when the Veterans Coffee and
We have a Veterans Coffee the first Tuesday of every month. And it's from 3:30 to 5:30 at Health and Human Services Building. And it's just an informal forum, place to get together with veterans, to bond with other veterans, and also learn about veteran services, what we provide, what our office provides. So again, that's every first Tuesday of every month. We'd actually like to increase that if we could see more interest, more participation, more people coming. Then we'd like to go to maybe 2 times a month and even more in the future. Thanks. Mitzi, you talked about one of the challenges in terms of developing a robust workforce and looking at some training opportunities. And I remember it was quite a few years ago, we had a relationship, or you guys had a relationship with CMC, and we were meeting down at the Aspen Community Church, and I forget, was that part of a sort of employment training opportunities, or is there an opportunity to work more closely with CMC to develop programs?
Yes, you're losing me there with the Aspen Community Church, because I don't remember that. Maybe that was pre my time.
Recession
Oh.
community effort that we made.
That's
It helped
right.
us create a relationship with CMC.
Yes.
And then Mitzi was successful in contracting through the Healthy Community Fund for the work plan.
Right, so that's right, and I could have mentioned that earlier. We have a great relationship with CMC. They have a program called Go to Work, and it is part of the Healthy Community Fund, ongoing now. And the staff there are really passionate about what they do. They're very enthusiastic. They have a very robust seniors computer training class on Saturday that they offer. And they do one-on-one free help for any Pitkin County resident who would like to refashion their resume, work on job-related skills, get information regarding employment. They have somewhat of a relationship with the workforce, but I do have to echo Patty and I talked to Jill Zeman, who is the head of that program. I'm very happy to be partnering with them, but workforce is understaffed and they lose staff. They don't have capacity to come to Pitkin on a regular basis really well. So it's something that we're going to have to grapple with as a community as to how to build those connections. But locally, we refer people to CMC Go to Work a lot when they have employment issues, and they're always happy to accommodate.
That's good to know.
So we've got a good building block there. We just have to expand it.
Because the nearest workforce office is the one in Glenwood Springs, and so it's really difficult to get
and
there.
the
And it's in the
staffing is really
mall,
an
so it's kind of, people don't know it's there, and
It's been that way for years.
yeah, so and people walk by it in the mall and don't have any idea what it is, and it's just something it's kind of mandated by the state and the feds. That's where the funding comes down, but it gets lost.
So I want to see what we can do to really help them.
Yeah.
Because there's probably things we can do to help.
We need to bring it to this end of the valley somehow.
Yes, for sure. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you guys.
Thank you, guys.
Chad and Senior Services, thank you guys. That's mine.
Okay. Oh, hello. My name is Chad Ferretz. I'm the new Senior Services Manager, I guess. And this is Patty Kravitz. She's a program analyst. We are the only staff that could come today from Senior Services. The rest are kind of holding down the fort. So, a couple of things for us, I guess, today to talk about is that Marty retired and I'm here. Apparently I'm a lot of work, though. The transition is a lot of work, but it's been really great for me so far, and I'm really happy to be here and learning a lot from everybody in this room, particularly everybody at the Senior Center. So it's been really helpful for me in this transition. A couple of other successes that I wanted to talk about was we had a nutrition site visit from the state about a month ago or so, and that was relatively well. It went pretty good. A couple things for us to tweak and look at down the road coming up next year, particularly, but no major issues. So overall, it was pretty good. And our DASH program is still work in progress, but is slowly getting some ground. So that's really a great thing for us. Feel free to jump in.
Sure. Just to
anytime.
elaborate, the DASH program, it was a project that we've discussed before, but it was to help us recruit more volunteer drivers, and it was a collaborative effort with Eagle County Healthy Aging and with the Roaring Fork Leadership. So it became a project of Roaring Fork Leadership Group this past year, and now it's transitioned into our staff and continuing to work on it. Mary presented this morning to ACRA to help continue to spread the word about our need for more volunteer drivers for seniors in the Valley.
Yeah. So it's been pretty great. A lot of it for me is learning all the different aspects of what has been going on in the department. So I rely heavily on my staff at this point yet. Some challenges or issues that we've talked about moving forward for this year include more discussion and support around caregiver support in this particular area and throughout the Valley, along with memory loss or memory care support and programming that in this particular area, and trying to provide a little more support around that area. And that's the area that I come from before coming up to the Valley, so it's something I'm a little more familiar with. And then of course, and all of these things relate to the Aging Well strategic plan in many different ways. And another area would be reaching out to our rural seniors in different capacities and trying to think of different strategies to be able to do those and reach those seniors that want our services, particularly. And of course, senior housing has been spoken of quite a bit and continues to be probably a challenge. And then outreach to seniors in general, getting our name out. There was rebranding that was done with our new website and all of that to kind of get our image out there and explain to people what we are, what senior services is all about, and what we can provide. And if we don't already provide it, how can we possibly provide what service you might be looking for? And then lastly, I would say a need for a different type of facility as a senior center. We're doing really good, and they have done a great job in the past of meeting needs of seniors at our current location, but I think moving forward, the needs are still there for some type of different setting or building or facility to better meet those needs of seniors and to expand our programming and different services and benefits that we could provide to the community. Anything you'd like to add?
We have completed a space needs study about the additional square footage that we might need. it's noticeably larger than what we're currently functioning with. We make good use of, as Chad was saying, we make good use of the space we have, but because it's all one integrated space, we can't do different things at the same time.
Right.
And a different facility would allow us a lot more flexibility to offer more than sort of one activity at a time. Those are some of the challenges that we're facing.
So do you see the need for a new facility or just an additional facility?
There are challenges with our current location. We have an ongoing, I would say, identity challenge being co-located with an assisted living facility. The community is people in the community are constantly saying, I'm getting ready to move in there. They joke about that. The community still identifies us as being a residential facility, even though we are not. So that's a big challenge. So we would like to see a new, more flexible facility. An additional location, I'm not, we could potentially talk about what that would look like. But I think for us, perhaps something that's more focused on our recreation aspects, but also still provides all the same services we're currently offering would really, it would really align more closely with the identity of our community and the identity of seniors in this community as being healthy and active, but still, when people start to get older, want a place where they feel comfortable to go for activities and socializing. Socializing is probably the most important aspect offered by a senior center, and one of the things that our customers constantly remark about why they come, what they enjoy about it.
It's interesting, John, as we were talking earlier about topics for joint city-county meeting, perhaps a presentation on senior studying the needs, as the city is still trying to figure out what they're going to do with their space, and there's maybe opportunities either from the armory down to the powerhouse.
Right.
It may be an interesting discussion, at least to let the city know that here are some needs, and there's a lot of seniors in the city.
Absolutely.
Well, I've had the opportunity to see the state demographer now twice, once with Northwest Colorado Council of Governments presentation and just recently with the Colorado Workforce. And the focus, what jumps out at you are the graying of the population. The numbers are, you can't even grasp the numbers of the aging population. So if we have been looking at space needs for the current demographic, we had really better be thinking about this balloon that we're going to be experiencing. And it really is hitting, interestingly enough, a lot of the mountain communities who have a lack of space to begin with, a lack of opportunity to grow because of space and land that's available. So it was a very interesting presentation. And Nan, hopefully we'll get it. We're supposed to be getting it digitally, and we'll send it on to you guys, and you can dispense it through whoever you think would. But it's fascinating information, scary, but it's something that needs to be looked at now. And George is right. It's a conversation that we should be having with the city, and when we do our joint meeting with Snowmass Village and Basalt, we've been looking at childcare and housing, and we need to really be bringing the senior aspect into those conversations.
Steve?
Another aspect of the senior center that we do get a lot of visiting seniors come. Also, a lot of seniors who are second homeowners who come part of the year, and part of the year they're elsewhere. So I think that's part of the impetus behind looking for a location that's easier for people to get to, so we could offer more services for the visiting guests in our community. A lot of grandmas and grandpas come with their families, and their families go skiing or snowboarding, and then the senior is left to fend for themselves sometimes, and that's when we find them at the senior center sometimes.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank
Thanks very
you.
much. Thanks for coming.
Good job. You want to say how you deal with stress?
Oh, yeah.
What stress?
Being able to get outside, living here.
You got that nice patio out there.
Okay.
Whatever you feel comfortable with. Hello, and thanks for having us. My name is Matt McGaw, and I'm the supervisor for Adult and Family Services Division. We almost have our whole team here today. As Nan mentioned, Kim couldn't make it today. She's out of town, and she's our division manager. And I wanted to try to introduce everybody. We have Andrea Aliaga, and she's our case aide, and she does a lot of work with families directly, supervised visitation, life skills, a lot of other things also. We also have EB Nix. It's EB, and her name is Elizabeth, but she goes by EB. And she's our newest member of our team, and is involved in our family engagement meetings. So she facilitates and coordinates meetings for the families that we work with when we get involved with decision making and planning for their cases. Right here we have Kelly Kirkpatrick, one of our caseworkers. More recently, Kelly's specializing more in the intake work, so she goes out and does the initial assessments with the families we get, mainly in child welfare. Kelly does also do some adult protection work and also facilitates meetings for us at times. So she's got all kinds of things that she does to help our team. Lindsay has been here for a while, and Lindsay is specialized in our ongoing casework. So Lindsay really gets involved with our most extreme kind of court-involved cases, and she manages those very well and does a great job of keeping up with all the documentation and all the state requirements that we have in those cases. Over here we have Leo. Leo has also joined us within the last year. Leo came from Garfield County, has vast experience as a child welfare caseworker, and like Kelly, does a lot of the intake assessment work for us. Joe had to leave. He specializes in the adult protection, and he's been doing that, I think, for the last couple years, and does a phenomenal job with that. And as we've kind of mentioned, the aging population is increasing, and Joe has been quite busy this month, and so he had to leave today. So I did want to talk about some of the successes and challenges. I wanted to start with the challenges because I think that'll help me kind of transition into this. So we've added staff, and we've kind of changed our staff structure a little bit. And so I think it's been a challenge for us to kind of adjust to that over the past year. We've also had a lot of new practice initiatives that we've implemented as a team. And so, not only are we responding to all the referrals and the cases that we manage in child and adult protection, but we've also, as a team, been working together to implement state practices that are really emphasizing just more family engagement and family involvement with our cases. And there's just been increased demands for our team. We've, with the implementation, of these new practices, we've also had an increase in the service delivery. The state has reallocated funding for us to be able to provide services to families at a prevention level, which is kind of new in child welfare. Traditionally, the response is an intervention based on reports, and we're now able to help serve families in a different way that doesn't require a child welfare investigation. And so we've found that we've I believe served about 30 additional families this year just by using prevention funds, which is, I think, has been really helpful in some of the work. And we hope to see a slight decrease in some of the child welfare involvements that we do have because of those prevention services. So over the past year, there was an implementation of differential response. This was a statewide initiative that our team had spent probably the last 2 to 3 years implementing a variety of different components that really looks at how we gather information, how we make decisions as a team and with families. There's a huge emphasis, like I had said, on family engagement, to really try to get them involved with the work that's being done and to have them lead kind of some of the decision making and planning that needs to happen. We really believe that the family involvement leads to better outcomes in our cases. And so there's a lot of work that's been put into that. And we were approved to be a differential response county in May of this year. And so what that allows us to do is the final component of the differential response allows us to have a dual response system to families that we can kind of designate high-risk situations and respond to that in a more traditional way that's, investigative, kind of fact-finding to just ensure child safety. Now we have a track that allows us to respond to these cases in a way that is, less investigative, more the low to moderate risk cases. And that allows us to respond in a different way, so families may not be as defensive or as less willing to work with us. And the two main things that with this different track that we have now is that we aren't needing to make findings of abuse or neglect on families if we get a call. And if we screen it in, we can just go assess for safety and work with families and not have to make an official finding. I think that reduces some of the anxiety and may increase some of how families share information with us, or at least being more honest with us and open with the work that we're trying to do. And then the last part is not having to interview children outside of the presence of their parents. It's kind of a big change that a lot of times a caseworker would respond to a new report and go meet with a child at school and then call the parents afterwards. And sometimes that's needed to assess for safety in certain situations, but we felt like for some of the low to moderate risk ones, it wasn't necessary, it wasn't engaging to the family. And so we've been able to implement that differential response process, and I feel like we're kind of hitting some bumps along the way, but I feel like we've done a good job, and we'll be able to serve families differently now. So that's a huge thing for Pickens County, and I'm really proud of the work that the team has done to implement the different components. And I look forward to see how we can stabilize that practice over the next year. I talked about the state having some reallocation of funding that has also, has added to our prevention programs. EB here does manage a prevention caseload, and like I said, I think we served about 30 extra families. But along with that, there's been the Colorado Community Response Program and another initiative through the Colorado Department of Human Services. There's been the formation of IOG and to oversee another child welfare initiative, a collaborative management program that allows us to collaborate with many partner agencies in the community to serve families and prevention efforts. So there's a lot more in Pickens County right now than there was a year ago as far as being able to offer different services to families in crisis or vulnerable families that may need support. Another big thing that has happened over the last year, there's been an implementation of a statewide hotline, and that has required our staff to have additional training, and has also allowed our phone calls to be basically covered by the state at certain points when we're needing to have coverage for our hotline, our child abuse and neglect reporting line. And so over the past year, we've kind of worked out some of the bumps with the state on how that all works. And for the upcoming year, we're really hoping and looking to have the state take that on full time. And that's something that we see a lot of advantages for if we were able to do that. For one, it's a low cost for the state to provide that coverage. And so they're able to manage the increasing volume of calls. what would happen is right now we have a part-time staff member, Susan, who's not even within our team. She does a great job of our hotline screening, but for her to do that within a part-time position is a challenge. Eagle County had a full-time worker and still went to the state hotline just because some of the challenges that they had with that. And so what this allows is the state to take calls. They contact the county and we confirm receipt that we got a new call. And so what this allows us to do then is for Susan to be able to hopefully do other things within her role in the administrative group. And then allows our caseworkers not to have to do the backup during meetings or family visits or over lunch. It's also when the caseworkers are on call, they are taking calls in the middle of the night at times for non-emergency situations that really, I think, impact their next day, obviously, and their productiveness. And so we see a lot of advantages to hopefully moving towards having the state have that coverage. And that would be something we're looking forward to for the next year, perhaps. I'll just keep continuing. Another thing, you had mentioned the question about how workers are dealing with stress. And in child welfare, we work in in adult protection, a highly stressful job at times. And Kim has really led an initiative for some workforce well-being, actual implementation that would be provided by, I don't know how to describe it, I guess a nonprofit agency, do you know? A consultant that really aims at not just personal caretaking, more so of how we can make the, work environment more manageable, more desirable, that we have worker retention so that we have experienced and competent workers that benefits the families and then also kind of increases satisfaction for workers at the job. And so that's an initiative right now that over the next year we plan to look at more closely and work with this consultant to hopefully improve the workforce well-being. And so we think that there's more than just being able to do your self-care. We think that there's things that can be done within our team that can increase the worker satisfaction, which we believe will impact the outcomes with the families we have. Was there anything else on that, Nan, that you wanted me to mention?
That's good.
No, we are seeking Title $20 to support that effort. And so it is about workforce well-being, but ultimately it's about having healthier children and families. If our workers are well, it translates into the families and the children that we serve.
So the consultant, that's different than the coaches that we have available through the VHA,
The coach
John?
that we have is different than this consultant.
We have coaches available through the VHA to help individuals, but the consultant is more of a team effort, a department effort.
Yeah, this would be a very concentrated, focused effort that this program called ENU, now called ALIA for some reason, neither one of which mean anything. They are doing this workforce well-being program in states and in other areas where they're showing tremendous success and outcomes with youth. So these guys all have access to coaches, but this would be a more concentrated effort, and I am working with Joanna to make sure that we're in alignment with all of the wellness activities that the county is doing.
Great.
Great. Questions?
Yeah, do we see much, I've heard from others in other counties, not from our county, about people abusing the system, retaliatory family members, telling on other family members or neighbors. That's a difficult one to screen out without impacting the family who's being retaliated against. And it was somebody in one of our neighboring counties who called me and said, "What do I do?" And I didn't really know what to tell them, other than maybe they should call their own county commissioners. But do we see much of that? I mean, that's a hard one for you guys to screen, I think.
Sure. And so one of the things I can talk about is, I mentioned the differential response, and there's different components that we've implemented. there's two components of differential response that kind of help us delineate, some of the factors that go into these reports that we look at and decide whether or not we screen in or out. And so one of those is the enhanced screening. Right now I mentioned Susan is taking our calls, and we've all been trained on going through a lot of information to get balanced information about what the reporter is concerned about. Are their family strengths? What's their relationship to the family? What's complicating factors? What are cultural considerations? And we use a framework to kind of break that information down so that when we decide to screen in or out a report, that we have it all laid out on a board, and we have a team of people, which is the second component. It's called our RED team. It stands for Review, Evaluate, Direct, RED team. And so at those meetings, every morning we have those meetings, and if we have new reports, which we often do, and we review those as a team and are able to kind of look at all the different factors that might go into whether it's false reporting or custody issues or duplicate referrals. And so I hope that kind of answers your question.
No, it does. And I'm hoping that, I don't know how it worked in this other county, but that's a good example of how it should work. The other thing is, too, it's the county just recently went through a thing with an anonymous complaint on a land use action that ended up going through the legal challenges to the state Supreme Court and appeals court, our anonymous complaint issue. Anyway, it didn't go in, and we had to release this information. Is it more protected, I would think, in your jurisdiction when anonymous complaints or reportings come in? Because it became an issue, and the county had to turn the information over on this land use issue, and it was uncomfortable.
Sure. So there's two different ways that we can protect the identity of the reporting party. And one, they can be anonymous when they make that call, and we would respect that. And being in a small community, there's at times we know who that reporter is, and it's valuable to know who that reporter is for us. So at times that can be a challenge, but it's also would be respected if someone requested that. The other piece of that is the reporting parties are always confidential. We do often have that documented in our database, and we protect that in different ways. And often our caseworkers are asked about the reporting party, and there's a lot of concern around that part of it. But we won't share that information. It's been a challenge because we can't share that information with law enforcement. So if we're co-investigating a crime with law enforcement and they want to know how we got a report, it puts us in a difficult situation, and we've learned ways to work with them and communicate with them so that they get good information without disclosing that.
I was just concerned. Well, Nan, you need to come to a mic too, because these mics, you have to, yeah, perfect.
I'm going to stand behind Matt.
You can stand behind Matt.
So one other piece of your question is about complaints. And by law, clients have the ability to make complaints about any of the services that are provided by these guys, and they all know that. We have a policy about how complaints are handled. We encourage families to talk to the caseworker first, and then the supervisor, and then the manager, and then me. We all investigate. We take complaints very seriously. The other thing is that the state allows families to complain or ask for an appeal on a finding, and they can go to the state and get a full review. So I think we have a lot of checks and balances because of the sensitivity of being in people's homes.
Right.
We take it very seriously and work very hard to accommodate.
My concern was the more the reporting ones that are coming into you, and how those people who can report anonymously, as people used to be able to with the land use issue, people are no longer anonymous because of this court finding that went through these different levels to the State Court of Appeals, and Pickens County lost that appeal and had to turn the information over. My understanding and thinking would be because of the sensitive nature and the vulnerable populations that you all deal with, is that that's a harder nut to crack when it came to having to release that information. But I just want you to know that
different. But I was thinking about if you have a friend in another county that's unhappy about something.
Yeah.
There's a process in every county by law.
Yeah, it wasn't a friend, and it wasn't an anonymous phone call, but it was somebody who just,
anonymous
yeah, somebody who just, I think it's because my name comes first in the list of commissioners. So they pick up the phone, oh, Clapper, we're calling, you know. Thank you guys. You guys do a really, really tough job. And just so you know, you don't have to be stressed, all of you, coming before the Board of Commissioners. People always say, oh, it's such a stress when we have to sit in front of you. You know, we're pretty friendly here.
I know. Did I appear stressed when I was?
No, you didn't appear. You did a good
I was a little
job.
nervous when we got started there, but
You did good.
I wanted to thank you guys. I think I'll speak for our team, and we've felt supported by this group. You know, I know at least for me over the last couple of years on some of the initiatives, and we really appreciate that. It's a
Well, we're
change of
working
pace
on
for
it.
what I've been used to. So thank you.
Yeah.
Steve?
When I became a county commissioner, I was aware of most of what the commissioners did, but the one area where I was really mostly ignorant was in our Health and Human Services Department. It was a huge learning curve for me to get up to speed on everything that all of you do all the time. And to me, it's really been the most rewarding part of being county commissioner has been, you know, keeping up to date on what all of you are doing, because what you do really affects the people in our community probably more than anybody else in the whole county staff. So your efforts are really appreciated, and you're kind of a lot of it behind the scenes that the public maybe isn't aware of what you all do all the time, but we as a Board of Commissioners are really aware of what you do, and appreciate all of your efforts.
Thank you.
Next time we'll bring the brownies. Okay, you got that?
Well, thank you all for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you guys for coming in early too. We really appreciate that.
So I think that's
Anybody
it.
can take brownies on the way out.
Are you going to call Jeff with
I did.
you?
We'll leave the ball and the
Grassroots, I think we're done for the day. We'll see you tomorrow at noon. Get here early to set up.